I can say with complete confidence that I've definitely found one source of a leak that's made the underside of that Dodge Dart so greasy and oily. So I was cleaning up these lines here. These are the transmission lines. They are paired, obviously. So I was coming back through here, looking around all this, clean this up. They're very dirty, and all kinds of grease and oil and crap on them. So I was looking at something that caught my eye here. See that there? That's a small hole rubbed in the line. So you know what did that? That's that wonderful bracket there that Chrysler supplied to keep the lines, guess what, from moving around. But evidently they were moving around enough over time to wear a hole into it. So I have to fix that. Evidently, I guess what caused it, these things are chintzy, these brackets. Because all they have here is they have these there's just two tabs right there. Let me scoot them down a little. Maybe. Come on. Oh yeah, so now you don't want to move, huh? I see how you are. Okay. Anyway. So now I've moved it where the lines are straighter. You see how floppy this is. If you look there below, see how much that moves? See, those were originally supposed to be, those tabs, I guess, were supposed to be tight against the line. But they loosened up. They fatigued. So I think I can fix this. I'm not gonna, you can't weld it, but I think I can fix that. I'm gonna try to. I don't know how much pressure these lines carry. I know they're not anywhere near line pressure, in the transmission, which is hundreds of pounds in some cases. Because you can run rubber transmission lines without them blowing out. So probably not a lot of pressure, but I think my method may work. I'm gonna try it and see. Okay, all fixed. Took me some effort to figure out how to do it, but I got it done. No Bondo required. All metal. Okay, so you know what time it is now. Should be pretty obvious to you. So I thought I would just take a minute to provide my credentials and my experience on putting the engines in cars such as this Dart. Back in let me see, what year was it? 1992, I think it was. 91 or 92. Yep, I bought a 1970 Valiant, a green 1970 Valiant, which I'll put a picture up here as soon as I can find one. I'll stick it in there someplace. It was a nice car. Back then, it was only 20 years old, 22 years old. It was a four-door, obviously, since it was a Valiant. It was slant six. It was a very nice car. But the engine was blown up. Had a slant six in it. It's blown up. So I bought it from a junkyard. I think I gave $500 for that car and brought it home and made the mistake of going back to the junkyard there, the same junkyard, to find another engine for it. So I found one in a Dart, which was about a 74 Dart, I think, back then. And, it turned over okay. I thought, oh, sure, And let me remind you, too, that was one of these junkyards that just, all you do is you just went in and told them what you're looking for, and they just waved you on, and you're just turned loose out there in the middle of the country. You could do whatever. We actually started a car or two up out there. So anyway, so I found this slant six in this 74 Dart. So I pulled it out in the junkyard. You think about, just put that in perspective. We have a nice concrete floor here and all the tools and lifts and stuff, and it's just great. Not that bad. It's still a loathsome task, but we did this. I did this out in the junkyard, pulled it out. So I've got this thing out, got it home, put it in, pulled one out, put it in the backyard, because my brother had a shop, but he wouldn't let me use it. It was that one that you saw there that I did, like the stuff at Mom's house down there, did the starter test video and all that big barn of a looking thing. But I couldn't use that. It wasn't mine. So I had to work out in the yard with a 4x8 sheet of plywood out there to roll the hoist on. And so somehow I did it. So I put that engine in, got it hooked up, got it running and everything, and it didn't sound too good. So it was not, had a dead cylinder. And so I thought, well, let's go for a road test. So I went for a road test, and sure enough, it knocked. Tock, 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 tock. So, okay, came back home and went looking for another engine. So I went to another junkyard, not the same one. And this time I made sure that I had a good engine. The guy that was selling me guaranteed it. He said, yeah, it came out of a Valari, I think. He said, yeah, it's good. And it was good. So I had to pull that engine that was bad back out of it, the Valiant, and swap engines again and put it back in, the new one back in. So swapped, 3 different engines in and out. So, and that one worked good. That one ran good. So it was a good engine. And I don't know whatever became of that car. I'm sure I sold it. I know I did. I mean, what else would I have done with it? You don't see it here anywhere. So, so anyway, that's my background as far as swapping engines and these things. So it's like old hat to me. I don't like doing it, but, I got the experience. There's nothing to it. Well, actually, there were more than that. I just didn't get into all of it. Of course, I had, that white Valiant that I had. I had to pull the dead slant 6 out of that one and swap it. And I pulled the engine out of that brown Duster. And it might have been another one in there someplace. But after I had that green Valiant, I bought a 72 Dodge Demon from a lady at work, which was a slant 6 and is a very basic Demon. And it was originally that kind of tan color, and then somebody repainted it, and it had different interior. Just not a very nice car. It, even at only 20 years old, it was less than that. It was pretty ratty, and so I was thinking I had to pull the engine out of that car, but I don't think I ever had the chance to because I resold it. I drove it for a while, and the engine didn't run very good in it either. And those cars are in worse shape back then than they are now because we take better care of them, I guess. But my buddy, who's no longer with us, he passed away a few years ago, but he bought it from me and drove it for a while. And a couple interesting stories there. Back then, when I was about 20 or 21, 22, I was quite irresponsible. Not the careful and pragmatic type of person I am now. So I was pretty much, if I had the opportunity to try to tear something up or encourage somebody to tear something up, I'd usually take it. I feel bad about it now, but anyway, so we had too much time on our hands, and we decided one night we would see just how fast that Demon would go. And so there's where we live down there. There's a big, long causeway with a straightaway. The causeway is probably 2 or 3, I think it's about 2 miles, something like that, straight across the lake there. So we got out. I'm trying to think what I had. I had something that would go faster than it. I think I had an Impala back then, so it wasn't any problem to keep. No, I know what it was. I borrowed my mother's car. That's what she had, a Mazda Protege, like a fairly new one, as a matter of fact. About a 91, one of those with a twin cam engine in it. And that car moved, man. So I could keep up with it. And so we got at the far end. We waited till fairly late in the evening, and we cruised on out to the far end of that causeway, and it's a 4-lane, and turned around and dropped the hammer. And I think it went about a little over 100 miles an hour. But my buddy, he was fearless too. To look at him, you wouldn't think he was a heavy guy, rotund, and like computers and stuff like that. But it wasn't anything for him to give a car heck. He didn't care at all. So he just stayed in it. I mean, it was probably at top speed by the time we got halfway across. He just kept it on the floor the whole way across. Till he had to slow down at the light at the end, so we just cruised on back home after that. So I'd say, yeah, it ran a little over 100 miles an hour, top end of that slant 6. And we got back to his house, which is about another 5 miles past that, just, making our way around to it and just driving normal speeds. And so we pulled back into his driveway, and he parked the car under the carport there. With a light in the carport, we could see what was going on. We stood out there in the yard talking and congratulating ourselves about what a fun idea we just had. And all of a sudden, we heard something. The car was like over, 100 feet away over there, nosed into the carport. All of a sudden, we heard something that sounded like a balloon leaking air. It started going. And all of a sudden, man, I don't know where it came from, but there was the biggest plume of steam just boiled out from under that car. Just filled the carport up. It boiled over so bad, man. I never seen a car boil over that bad spontaneously, but it did. That thing must have been red hot. I think the radiator was having problems because it tended to run a little bit warm anyway. But it did, but it didn't. It ran after that, but enough. He kept driving it, but he must have weakened it pretty bad because it was not more than about a week or two later. He gave me a call on the house phone. We just had phones in the house then. He called me and he said, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Can you help me go get my car?" I said, "Okay, where is it at?" He said, "Well, it's sitting on the side of the road halfway up the mountain going to..." No, I'm telling you wrong. It was in a parking lot at the bottom of this mountain that's there in town by the high school where I grew up at. He said, "It's in the parking lot," where I coasted back down. I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well," I don't know. He said, "I was just going up the mountain and I gave it gas to keep going, and all of a sudden it made a big noise and quit running. It wouldn't start again." So I thought, ooh, well, this could be exciting. So I drove him over there, and it was sitting there in the parking lot, and we lifted the hood up, and well, let me give you some visuals here. Oh, this will work. So anyway, so we lifted the hood up, and the first thing I noticed is the negative battery cable, which normally attaches right here, and right on one of these bolts, was over on the fender well over here. The end of it was like up here with a big chunk of engine block on it. And so it had lost the connecting rod, and it had taken out the camshaft too, so it would not run at all. So that engine was junk, and I think I sold that car. He sold it back to me like real cheap. And so that was the end of it. So yeah, he tore it. Well, he had a couple more cars. So I have to tell a story about that. He had a couple more cars that he damaged pretty bad too. We did that top end trick with my buddy's Monte Carlo also. He had about an 81 Monte Carlo with a 305 or 350 in it. And you know what? He couldn't outrun that Mazda either. He'd run about 110. That was about all that Monte Carlo would do, even with a V8 in it. And that Mazda keep up with it. So Mazdas are great cars. So okay, story time's got to be over for right now. Let me get back to work. I'd say it doesn't get any more tight than this. All right, I've got all the tilt out of my tilter, and just a little bit of room at the oil pan, and that is against the tunnel. So at this point, it's just gonna have to go in. Well, you know that feeling you get when you're almost there. I'm talking about dropping an engine in. Whoops, and don't hit your camera on the hood hinge. That's what you call getting close. So around here we have a small issue. It's not an issue, it's just simply another something that means nothing to nobody trying to get in the way of something. So there's been a little bit of conflict between that adapter and the brake line, but that's all right. So we're gonna drop down. We're gonna be home. Mom, I'm coming home. Okay, you remember what I just said just now that it was getting close to going in? Well, that was then. This is now. See that? You see that? You can't see that. Get in there. Get in there where you can see that. Look at it. Look at it. See that? That's it. Take it in. Look at it. See it. See it. See it. See, at this very moment, this is when you cross over psychologically from thinking, I'm putting the engine in, to it's in, it's in, it's in, it's done. It's happened right now. There's no going back. If I do anything to that hoist, the engine is going to just drop in. And I'm not one to toot my own horn, but you see who's all done that. So wasn't that hard, really? I mean, it's just a lot of finessing with the hoist and this tilter thing. You forget about even doing it about one of these because these things are great. So I would say probably this is really a little bit easier doing it this way because you don't have to horse around with, trying to get the engine married up to the transmission. So now I'm going to drop that thing on down, breathe a sigh of relief, and then I'll go under and put my cross member in. I think it's over in that pile of stuff. And that's it. It's in. It is in. I-N-N.